right, guys, let's give those hips a small break and go to necks and abs. So now we're going to go on to our back. This first thing we're going to do, guys, is we're going to look at less effective and more effective ways of doing something as simple as sitting up. So from our ground position, if you're familiar with our work, we always begin the same way. We're going to start by curling the tailbone under, pulling the core in. Again, I always want to be braced enough that I can tippy tap with my fingers. It's more solid, it's resistant, but you'll notice I'm still able to continue breathing to supply myself with enough air to talk. And what we're going to do as a baseline is we're going to engage from the tailbone, and then we're going to curl the chin up. I am a big fan of performing neck flies like this from an engaged spine in order to condition the neck. Now, if I was in this kind of a prone position and I was looking to draw, there are a lot of schools that teach drawing from here, and you'll see people deviating off to the side to pull the weapon up. It's not the end of the world. It is doable, but it becomes more and more difficult when we start looking at things like fatigue, resistance, close quarters if somebody's right on top of us. We can experiment with bringing the chin up first and then seeing that you can't really easily get here without cramping up the shoulder. Normally there's going to be at minimum an axis deviation from the shoulders to pull the weapon out. Because you don't have a lot of resistance with the legs, you have to pull it up like a scarecrow across the body line. My second hand is meeting it in that first position we discussed, and my thumbs can be pointing towards each other until I present the weapon, in which case the thumbs are pointing forward. So I could perform it this way. I've seen a lot of people teach it from the deviation with the shoulders. I am not a huge fan of this. I much prefer rotating onto my pocket. And the obvious reason for that is you see the weapon gets presented upward. That gives me more place to work. Here when I'm close to the ground, it's a little bit awkward. My wrist is bent up. But if I go engage the core, roll up the head, hip, as if I'm jutting the butt towards you, now I also have the ability to push the leg away from the weapon if it gets stuck. I have more room to work as well. And it takes much less energy. You'll also notice that my leg becomes a frame that allows me to support my weapon. So if I was one-handed, this gives me support. Somewhat replaces the second hand. So again, you can play with straight, the so-called scarecrow draw from the shoulder. And you can play with rotating from the hips. It's your call. Now, generally given the choice, I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to draw weapon side high. But there are times when I'll find weapon side down, because this is a great way to retain my weapon. Rather than occupying all my hands in the fight, I can put the weapon down and couch it under my floating rib, and that gives me a lot of strength. I can also use my legs to get additional protection. And then when I'm ready to draw, my hand is going to the weapon, my hip is coming to the hand. I'm meeting both ways. So this simple action of protecting and then drawing. I can present weapon side up, or I can protect it and then be ready for it as it comes out. Now, from this simple sit-up, we see that the legs start to move very dynamically. This motion is what we refer to as the bicycle. The key to the bicycle is this: I'm never lifting my feet off the floor. That's the only rule you have. For efficiency, I want to avoid the habit of helicoptering over with my legs like this. And this seems like a tiny little point. I always want them on the ground. So if I rotate to my side, in order for my top leg to cross my bottom leg, my top leg needs to be long, my bottom leg needs to retract, and then this gives me the space to crisscross. This basic motion, like I'm riding a bicycle right here. On the opposite side, again, top leg is long, bottom leg shortens to make space. The reason this becomes so important is that if I develop that little sloppy habit of lifting and dropping, and I'm drawing at the same time, oftentimes my legs get in the way. Imagine somebody wrestling with my legs, holding me down, if somebody else was on my body. Any resistance upward is a waste of energy. I'm not going to win that fight. But if I work from the spine and from my hips, I'll have much more power, much more efficiency, and much more speed. So I always want to develop that habit, to not get my legs up in the way. Retention, access. And from a drawn position, the same would apply. I can rotate using the legs as a frame of reference and support. So my legs are never accidentally rising up into the line of fire. I always want to be low. Now nothing changes in relation to a long gun. If I'm on the ground and the long gun is slung low, oftentimes you'll find yourself wanting to get underneath to support it, but it's just maybe there's resistance, or maybe you're in a low profile, maybe it's fatigued, maybe it's snagged. By moving onto my side, I give myself the space I need to access that weapon. So I'm in my low slung position, moving onto the side, and then my framing leg becomes an additional frame for the weapon. I can use all the points of the magazine, the extended barrel, to support that fully and to be as efficient as possible. Always staying under the line of fire. Likewise, going towards the weapon side, if I found myself in a low slung position here, my bottom leg does not want to risk stepping. My bottom leg slides under and provides me with support and reference, if nothing else, clearing the line of fire. And we see that this deeply ties in to my modified prone. Again, the extended leg staying deeply out of the way and giving me that line of reference if I need it.